Hey, guys, what's up? It's your boy, Johnny. And let me tell you, today's video is going to be different. We're diving deep into the world of the paranormal, like really deep, the kind of deep that makes you sleep with the lights on for a week. So buckle up, grab your blankie, and maybe some popcorn. Extra butter, please. We're about to take a trip into the unknown, exploring the terrifying nightmare of shadow people. These aren't your friendly neighborhood ghosts. We're talking dark, mysterious figures that lurk in the shadows, often appearing when you least expect it. And trust me, you don't want to see one of these things in your bedroom at night. Get ready for 3 real stories, raw and terrifying, that will send chills down your spine, and maybe, just maybe, make you question everything you thought you knew about the world around you. Stay tuned. Our first story takes us to a quaint little bed and breakfast nestled in the countryside. You know the type, all floral wallpaper and doilies, smelling faintly of lavender and regret. It seems like the perfect place to unwind, right? Well, not for Sarah. See, Sarah booked a weekend getaway at this charming B&B, hoping for some much-needed R&R. She imagined herself curled up by the fireplace, reading a book and sipping hot cocoa. You know, the works. But Sarah's relaxing vacation took a sharp turn into nightmare territory on her very first night. She was drifting off to sleep when she heard it, a soft, almost inaudible whisper coming from the corner of the room. Now, Sarah, being a practical woman, brushed it off as her imagination. After all, who wouldn't be a little jumpy in a new place, right? But little did she know, this was just the beginning of her terrifying ordeal. As the night wore on, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. Sarah tried to ignore them, burying her head under the pillow, but the sound seemed to cut right through her defenses. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest, her breath catching in her throat. The hair on the back of her neck stood on end as a cold shiver ran down her spine. Something was definitely off. Gathering her courage, Sarah slowly turned towards the source of the whispers, her hand trembling as she reached for the bedside lamp. The dim light flickered to life, casting long, eerie shadows across the room, and that's when she saw it. A tall, shadowy figure standing in the corner, its edges flickering and wavering in the dim light. Its eyes, if you could call them that, seemed to burn with a cold, malevolent intensity. Sarah froze, her breath catching in her throat. Time seemed to stand still as she stared at the figure, her mind struggling to process what her eyes were seeing. It was like something out of a horror movie, but this was all too real. The figure remained motionless, its shadowy form blending seamlessly with the darkness of the room. But even though it didn't move, Sarah could feel its presence, heavy and oppressive, closing in on her. Fear, raw and primal, surged through her veins. She wanted to scream, to run, to do anything to escape the suffocating terror that had gripped her heart. But her body refused to obey. She was paralyzed, trapped in a nightmare that seemed to stretch on for an eternity. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the figure vanished. One moment it was there, a terrifying silhouette against the darkness, and the next it was gone, leaving no trace behind. Sarah was left trembling in the bed, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. She lay there for what felt like hours, too terrified to move, too scared to even breathe. The whispers, thankfully, were gone. But the memory of the shadowy figure, its cold, malevolent eyes, continued to haunt her thoughts. Sleep, that night, was impossible. The next morning, Sarah packed her bags and fled. The B&B, her idyllic vacation, transformed into a desperate escape. She couldn't wait to get back to the familiar comfort of her own home, away from the shadows and whispers of room 302, but the experience left an indelible mark on her psyche. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had been watched, hunted by something sinister and unknown. Determined to understand what she had encountered, Sarah began researching paranormal phenomena, delving into the dark underbelly of the internet in search of answers. And that's when she stumbled upon the term shadow people. Could this be what she had seen in that room? A being of pure darkness feeding off her fear? Our next story takes us to the quiet suburbs, where a young man named David grew up in a house that held a dark secret. It wasn't a haunted mansion on a hill or a dilapidated cabin in the woods. No, this was a typical suburban home, complete with a white picket fence and a swing set in the backyard. But beneath the veneer of normalcy, something sinister lurked in the shadows of the basement. David always felt uneasy in the basement, even as a young child. It was always cold and damp, the air thick with the musty smell of mildew and forgotten memories. The flickering fluorescent lights cast long, eerie shadows that danced and twisted along the walls, making him feel like he was being watched. He would often hear strange noises, creaking floorboards, distant whispers, and the unsettling feeling of something brushing past him in the dark. But it wasn't until David was a teenager that he had his first true encounter with the entity that haunted his childhood home. One hot summer afternoon, David and his friends decided to play a game of hide and seek. They had explored every nook and cranny of the house and yard countless times before, so David suggested they take their game to the basement. His friends, eager for a challenge, readily agreed. As David made his way down the creaky basement stairs, a sense of unease washed over him. The air felt heavier than usual, charged with an almost electric tension. He could hear his friends giggling and whispering as they scattered to find their hiding spots. David took a deep breath, trying to shake off the feeling of dread that had settled in the pit of his stomach. He closed his eyes and began to count. 98, 99, 100. Ready or not, here I come, David called out, his voice echoing through the empty basement. He started his search, checking behind boxes, under the stairs, and inside old cabinets. The basement seemed unusually quiet now, the earlier laughter and chatter of his friends replaced by an unnerving silence. As he rounded a corner, something caught his eye. A tall, dark figure stood motionless in the shadows at the far end of the basement. It was taller than any human, its edges blurring and shifting in the dim light. David's blood ran cold. David froze, his heart pounding in his chest. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The figure remained perfectly still, as if waiting for him to make a move. David's mind raced, trying to rationalize what he was seeing. Was it just a trick of the light, a figment of his imagination? But deep down he knew it was something more, something sinister. He took a step back, his foot catching on a loose floorboard. The sound, amplified in the silence of the basement, seemed to shatter the stillness. The figure turned its head slowly towards him, and David could have sworn he saw two glowing eyes staring back at him. Terror surged through David's body. He didn't hesitate. Spinning around, he ran toward the stairs, his heart pounding in his ears. He could hear the figure moving now, its heavy footsteps echoing behind him. David scrambled up the stairs, his lungs burning, his legs screaming for him to stop. He didn't slow down until he burst through the basement door and slammed it shut behind him. He could hear his friends calling his name, their voices muffled by the thick wooden door. But David couldn't bring himself to answer. He was too shaken, too terrified to speak. He had just come face to face with something truly terrifying, something that haunted his nightmares for years to come. Okay, so this story takes us to a small town just outside of LA. It's one of those places where everyone knows everyone, and the streets are usually quiet after dark. Picture this. A young woman, Sarah, is walking home alone late one night. She's just finished a long shift at the diner, and he is looking forward to getting home and crashing. It's one of those nights where the streetlights are casting long, creepy shadows. You know, the kind that make you feel like someone is watching you? Yeah, it's like that. The air is cool, and there's a slight breeze rustling the leaves. Anyway, Sarah starts feeling this weird vibe, like someone is totally creeping on her, like full-on stalker vibes. She can't shake the feeling that she's not alone. She tries to shake it off, tells herself it's just her imagination running wild because it's dark and she's alone. She even hums a little tune to calm her nerves, but the feeling just keeps getting stronger. It's like a weight pressing down on her, making it hard to breathe. She speeds up a little, but every time she glances over her shoulder, there's nothing there. Just the empty street and those unnerving shadows. Just an empty sidewalk and those freaking creepy shadows. The silence is almost deafening, broken only by the sound of her footsteps. I swear this would be freaking me out. The whole atmosphere is just so unsettling, so Sarah's heart is pounding in her chest at this point. She can hear it thudding in her ears, almost drowning out everything else. She can feel the adrenaline starting to pump. It's like her body is preparing for something, but she doesn't know what. She's practically running now, and she's just praying that she makes it home safe. Every step feels like a mile, and her house seems so far away. I mean, who wouldn't be freaking out at this point? The fear is almost paralyzing. It's like something out of a horror movie, the kind where you want to scream at the character to run faster. And then she sees it, a dark figure standing under a streetlight ahead of her. It's just a shadow, a silhouette, really, and it's just standing there, completely still, like it's waiting for her. It's tall and slender, and the figure doesn't move an inch, adding to the eerie feeling. Sarah freezes, her blood turning to ice. She feels like she's in a nightmare, unable to wake up. She doesn't know what to do. Should she turn around? Should she run? Should she scream? Her mind is racing, trying to figure out the best way to get out of this situation. Sarah takes a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. The night is eerily quiet, the kind of silence that amplifies every little sound. She can hear the rustling of leaves, the distant hum of traffic, and her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. She tells herself it's probably just another late night walker, someone who just happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But the unease gnaws at her, making her second guess her own reassurances. But deep down she knows it's not true. There's an instinct, a primal fear that she can't shake off, telling her that something is very wrong. There's something off about this figure, something that sends chills down her spine. It's not just the way it stands, but the way it seems to blend into the shadows, almost as if it's a part of the darkness itself. She decides to be brave, to face her fear head on. She knows that running away might not be an option, and confronting it might be her only chance. She starts walking again, slowly this time, her eyes fixed on the figure. Each step feels like an eternity, her senses heightened, every nerve in her body on edge. As she gets closer, she realizes that the street light is playing tricks on her eyes. The figure seems to shift and waver, like a mirage in the desert. The figure isn't solid. It's like a shadow itself, darker than the night around it. It's as if the darkness has taken on a life of its own, forming a shape that's both there and not there. The air feels colder, and the hairs on the back of her neck stand up as her chest tightens, and her hands start to tremble. And then the figure moves. It's a subtle shift, but enough to make her heart skip a beat. It turns its head towards her, and even though she can't see its face, Sarah can feel its gaze burning into her. It's an intense, almost tangible sensation, like a weight pressing down on her. It's a cold, empty feeling, like being stared down by something inhuman. The gaze is devoid of any warmth or emotion, just a hollow, chilling presence. She wants to scream, to run, but her feet are rooted to the spot. It's as if the fear has physically anchored her to the ground. It's like she's paralyzed with fear. Her mind is screaming at her to move, but her body refuses to obey. The figure takes a step closer, and that's when Sarah snaps out of it. The spell of fear breaks, and adrenaline kicks in. She turns and runs faster than she's ever run before. Her legs pump like pistons, driven by pure survival instinct. She can hear her own breath rasping in her ears, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. Each breath is a desperate gasp for air, each heartbeat a reminder of her will to survive. But she doesn't dare look back. The fear of what she might see is too overwhelming. She doesn't want to see if the figure is following her. All she knows is that she needs to get away as far and as fast as possible. Sarah's feet pound the pavement as she races down the empty street. She can feel the burn in her lungs, the ache in her legs, but she pushes herself harder. She has to get away. She has to get home. Adrenaline is pumping through her veins, fueling her flight. She glances over her shoulder, just a quick peek, and her blood runs cold. The figure is gone, vanished. But Sarah knows it's not over. She can still feel its presence, like a shadow clinging to her heels. It's like it's toying with her, letting her think she's safe before it strikes. She bursts through her front door, slamming it shut behind her and fumbling with the lock. She throws the deadbolt, chains, everything she can find to secure herself inside. She leans against the door, gasping for breath, her body trembling with fear and exhaustion. She listens intently, but all she hears is the pounding of her own heart. Slowly, the adrenaline starts to wear off, leaving her drained and terrified. She knows she's safe inside her own home, but the memory of that figure, that shadow, continues to haunt her. The days that follow are a blur. For Sarah, she can't shake off the feeling of being watched, hunted. Every shadow seems to hold the shape of the figure, and every creak of the house sounds like approaching footsteps. Sleep offers no escape, haunted by nightmares of the chase. She tries to tell herself it was all in her head, a figment of her imagination, fueled by stress and exhaustion. But deep down, she knows the truth. She saw something that night, something dark and terrifying, something that defied explanation. The experience leaves its mark on Sarah. She's no longer the carefree young woman she once was. She's afraid of the dark, afraid to be alone, afraid of her own shadow. The fear follows her everywhere, a constant reminder of that nightmarish encounter. This story, guys, it's not just about a creepy figure on a dark street. It's about the lasting impact of fear, the way it can change you, haunt you, even after you think you're safe. It's about the things that go bump in the night and the shadows they leave behind. Sarah's story serves as a chilling reminder that some things can't be explained away. Her experience is a stark testament to the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding, the eerie occurrences that defy rational explanation. It's a testament to the power of the unknown, the fear that grips us when we confront something that defies logic and reason, the shadows that stretch across our path, the whispers that seem to come from nowhere, all contribute to a sense of unease that is hard to shake off. It leaves us questioning what lurks in the shadows, what unseen forces might be watching our every move. The unknown becomes a canvas for our deepest fears, painting a picture of dread that is both compelling and terrifying. Some might dismiss Sarah's experience as a hallucination, a trick of the mind. They might argue that stress or fatigue played tricks on her senses, creating an illusion of something sinister. But for those who have experienced the unexplainable, there's a chilling resonance to her story. It echoes their own encounters with the unknown, validating their fears and confirming that such experiences are not mere figments of imagination. It validates their own fears, confirms that we are not alone in the darkness. The shared experience of fear brings a sense of solidarity, a recognition that others have faced similar terrors. The stalker in the night remains an enigma, its motives and origins shrouded in mystery. What drives such a presence to haunt the living? What purpose does it serve in the grand scheme of things? But its impact on Sarah's life is undeniable. The fear it instilled in her continues to shape her perceptions, influencing how she views the world around her. It's a stark reminder that fear can linger long after the encounter, shaping our perceptions and haunting our dreams. The psychological scars left behind are often more enduring than the physical ones, and so we're left with more questions than answers. Each encounter with the unknown adds another layer to the mystery, deepening our curiosity and our fear. What was the shadow figure? Was it a ghost, a figment of Sarah's imagination, or something else entirely? Why did it target Sarah? Was there something about her that drew the entity to her, or was it simply a random act of terror? And what does it mean for the rest of us, those who dare to venture out into the darkness? Are we all potential targets, or is there a way to protect ourselves from such encounters? These are the questions that keep us up at night, fueling our fascination with the unknown. The search for answers continues, driven by a mix of fear and curiosity that is as old as humanity itself. Well, guys, that's it for tonight. 3 chilling tales of shadow people encounters that will hopefully leave you sleeping with the lights on. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear more terrifying true stories, make sure to subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to check the video description for timestamps and more information. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there. You never know what might be lurking in the shadows.